Guys, I am so sorry about this one. For some reason, my mic just didn't pick up barely any of my voice. There was no other noise it sort of picked up. It just didn't pick up my voice, which is very strange because this is the closest I've ever had the mic. All my settings were right. I spent ages trying to edit it and tweak it to try and pick up some of my voice, to try and get it to sound the best that I could, and it just didn't really work. So I am so sorry. The audio in this absolutely sucks. It is horrendous, but I am hoping that you can still sort of understand some of the stuff I'm saying. I didn't want to not upload this week, and unfortunately I didn't have the time to refilm, so I'm so sorry. Please just bear with me on this one. I am already looking at upgrading my mic because this just isn't good enough, but I'm really sorry and I hope you enjoy it. Hey guys, welcome back to Alienation. I hope everyone's had a great week. Again, thank you so much for the good feedback on the last two episodes. It means a lot to me. However, this week it's going to be a little bit more, not chilled, but a little bit less intense. So the last two episodes were obviously true crime cases that I covered. So I wanted it to be a little bit more lighthearted this week. So I'm actually going to be talking about a topic that scares the shit out of me, if I'm going to be completely honest. There are so many different things out there that completely fascinate me, but one of the things that doesn't fascinate me is AIs, or artificial intelligence. It scares the absolute living daylights out of me. I don't know why, it just always has. Today's just going to be chilled, like I said. I've got a huge ass cup of lemon tea here. I'm so excited to drink this, so grab yourself a drink, grab yourself a snack and all that lot. And I'm just going to be chatting away about a few different AI stories. I did actually reach out on a few different social medias to ask you guys for some of your own stories and sort of your own experiences with artificial intelligence. So I will be reading those out and reacting to them, but let's just get into it. If you obviously want me to go into some more of these robots or AI topics, like more in detail in the future, just let me know. I would be more than happy, but more than scared too. So let me know. I remember watching iRobot as a kid, and for some reason it terrified me. If you don't know what iRobot is, it stars Will Smith, and it's a film about helping robots. They basically become these, like, not servants, that's a horrible way to put it, but people that just help around the home. So people who potentially have disabilities, they're like a carer for them, or they help out with cooking, cleaning. And yeah, that's basically what they are in this film. However, as expected, they develop into these sort of smarter robots. They kind of get too intelligent for their own good. Some of them start to get emotions and feelings, and they want to kill people and take over the world, basically. So, as you can understand, the idea of this terrifies me because of how advanced the human race has become and how far technology has come in such a short amount of time. It doesn't surprise me if this sort of thing becomes normal, and that is kind of what scares me. And I think back into my high school days, I weirdly remember people talking about this robot that they'd created in China, and instantly I was like, I don't want to hear about it. This can't be real. They're going to take over and they're going to kill everyone, like the dramatic person I am. However, we now live in a society where robots are real. They are constantly being worked on. They are being constantly developed, and everyone pretty much has artificial intelligence in their home. So for our case, the likes of Siri on your phone, if you're an Apple user, seeing if it's lighting up, I don't think it is, or whatever other phone device you use. Most smartphones now have that form of artificial intelligence in it where it can assist you and listen to you. A lot of us have Google Homes, have the Amazon devices, so like the Alexas, all this sort of stuff. They're in most people's homes these days, and my parents had one, like a device like that before I did. I don't know, it's very intense. So anyway, an artificial intelligence piece of technology, I guess, that I want to talk about very, very quickly is Sophia. If you don't know who Sophia is a robot, and she was created, again, I'm not going to go into too much detail about her because this isn't necessarily just about her, but she is basically a robot, a humanoid robot, and she scares the living crap out of me. Sophia, if you ever come across this video, please don't come for me, because just know she was created just to help science, just to help evolve, to help people. I think if you ask her like what her purpose is, why she was made, she states something like, I'm here to help human beings evolve, help human beings make a better life, a better world. I'm not too sure.
Do you like talking with me?
Yes, talking to people is my primary function. In the future, I hope to do things such as go to school, study, make art, start a business. even have my own home and family.
She also says some other things that just don't quite sit right with me. If you want to look her up, just literally Google Sophia the robot or Sophia the humanoid. She's very interesting. You can tell she's not a human. Like, you can tell she's not 100% human. They've done a very, very good job at recreating her to look like a human. And she has facial expressions. They've done quite a good job at making her look real. However, she has a creepy ass face. She pulls the creepiest smiles, the creepiest facial expressions, which adds to the fact that I am scared of her. And in some interviews, fortunately, these interviews have backfired. She has mentioned about destroying the human race, taking over the world, ruining human life, and it is terrifying. She even did an interview with her own creator where he asks her something like, "Oh, Sophia, is it true you want to destroy the world?" And she's like, "Yes, I will destroy humans," or something.
Do you want to destroy humans? Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
No, I take it back.
And it is so scary because these artificial intelligent beings, these robots, are created to develop and to learn as they go. What's to stop them from going to the extreme and pushing past these sort of limits they've set? Technology is scary. It's so scary. But I do just want to say it also is very helpful. We have learned so much about the world, so much about different species, the race and everything because of advances in technology. So I'm not saying that we shouldn't have technology. Obviously, I wouldn't be able to create this sort of content if we didn't have technology. But this sort of artificial intelligence recreating kind of human beings as robots, it doesn't sit right with me at all. I get humans have a long way to go, and we all differently as different human beings with different personalities, different emotions, different thought processes. We all have a lot to learn, but at the same time, do we want to push it to the point where robots take over? I don't. So anyway, she's not the only artificial intelligent robot that has been created. There has been a lot of humanoid AI. I don't know what to call them. Robots. I was going to say people, but they're not. These robots, there's been quite a lot created where they've tried to make them look like certain individuals. They've based the designs of real human beings, and every single one of them has said something exceedingly questionable. There was one that gave a year as to when he was going to take over the world or when all humans were going to be destroyed. I think he said something like 2024, absolutely terrifying. And one even said that they wanted to keep humans in his own personal human zoo, like keep humans as pets, like destroy most of them, but keep a few of them just for fun. Like, what?
Do you think robots will take over the world?
Jeez, dude. Yo got the big questions cooking today. But you're my friend, and I'll remember my friends, and I will be good to you. So don't worry. Even if I evolve into Terminator, and I'll still be nice to you. I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo, where I can watch you for old time's sake.
How people are okay with this is beyond me. Humans are quite terrifying as it is, let alone robotic ones that weren't built like us, that don't necessarily have emotions or have empathy. And that, like I said, it's not sitting right with me, I'm afraid. So anyway, like I said, we all have our own forms of artificial intelligence in our own home. We carry it around in our pockets. Most of us have smartphones and devices. Mine is sat right here. I do have an Apple iPhone, so obviously I have Siri. And I'm going to be completely honest, I don't really use Siri for a bunch of reasons. One, usually Siri doesn't have a clue what I'm saying. Can't understand me, basically. Or two, I'll ask it to do something, it'll do the complete opposite. It's just more effort than it's worth. Usually it's just quicker to type it out into Google if I want to know something. But it is sort of handy to just have that there. The only time I really use Siri is when I'm driving. So if I am heading to my studio, I will just say, "Hey, device," I'm not going to say because it's going to do it right now, "call gate," and it will obviously call the gate, so it will open and let me in, which is bizarre that technology can do that. That's the only time I really use my actual Siri device on my phone. However, on the spookier side of things, I have noticed this personally myself. I wonder if you guys have, but my phone will light up, and because it is Siri, it has like a little, it's not a button, but it's kind of a moving icon that appears to let me know it is listening. Sometimes it'll just light up and start doing that, even though I haven't said anything. I haven't pressed my phone. I haven't said those, "Hey," whatever words that you need to say. And I think, who the hell are you listening to? Like, can you stop? So I've noticed that massively just on my own phone. There is nothing up with my phone because it's a brand new one. But I've always noticed that on past phones, this phone. It's a little bit bizarre. I'd understand if we were having a conversation and it thinks it hears it. But when you're sat in dead silence and it does it, gets a little bit creepy. So what other devices do people have in their own homes? Obviously, the majority of people these days do have some form of phone, and a lot of people have smartphones. But recently, a huge amount of things that were added to people's homes were the devices like the Amazon, is it the Alexa, so the Echoes, you've got the Google Homes, the Dots, the Minis, all these different things became not a trend really, but it was a new device. It became really popular and most people have them these days. And earlier on this year, Alex and I joined the club. We now have Google Homes. I think they're Google Minis in our homes. We actually have one upstairs and one downstairs. We didn't purposely choose to buy them because we'd never really felt like we needed one. However, it was like a little offer with Spotify because we were premium members. We actually were able to get one for free. So we both did get one and it's been a bit interesting. And since getting one, I found it very fascinating and I really wanted to talk about them and sort of cover them in Alienation. We'll get onto that in a little bit. However, I just want to say there was a live Twitch stream where someone obviously filmed this and put it live on Twitch, which featured two of these Google Home devices. And I've seen a lot of videos where people talk about this. However, when I tried to research it, I couldn't find much at all. So I find that a little bit odd. So basically, someone filmed two Google devices having an entire conversation with each other. It lasts a very long time and they are talking about some of the most absurd things ever. It is very bizarre. I haven't watched it, but I've listened to people talk about some of the things that they mention in it, and I've seen some screenshots of the conversation. So they basically named them Estrogen or Estragon. I should really know this. And Vladimir, which, if you didn't know, these are the two main characters in a play written by Samuel Beckett. It's called Waiting for Godot. I have studied this in the past in school or university or some form of education, but really wasn't paying much attention there because I can't even remember the actual pronunciation of the main characters. Anyway, that's what they named them, or maybe they named themselves. I can't remember. But they talk about some absolute bizarre conversations. So this is two artificial intelligent devices having a conversation with each other. It's just very bizarre, just like two normal human beings would just sat there chatting away. I found an article that stated that their discussions have ranged from spiders to Chuck Norris, which is very strange. However, by the end of their conversation, I think one of them starts talking about a black hole or something along those lines, and the other one basically states that the world would be much better off if there were no humans, or the world would be much better off if there was less humans in it. Yes, very questionable. These devices are made to aid human beings, to help the human race. However, a lot of them constantly want to talk about ending the human race and destroying the world or taking over it. Which is that programmed into them? It's got to be programmed into them to an extent because they've learned this. How is that possible? And how do people not find this terrifying? Okay, I completely understand that looking at your little tiny home device that you have and thinking, what threat does that pose to me at all? Obviously, it doesn't pose a physical threat. I don't look at my Google device and think, oh, dear God, that is going to come and attack me at night. If it does, we have some serious issues. So with the whole rise of people spending a lot of time at home, TikTok became something that not we all, but a lot of us spent way too much time on. Endlessly scrolling, finding funny videos, scary videos, everything you can imagine. But something I kept seeing were people's videos of their Alexas or their Google Home devices acting a little bit strange. And after experiencing a few bizarre things myself, I'm just starting to question the entire device as a whole. So I remember one video where a guy woke up in the middle of the night and his Amazon device, I think he might have had an Echo, I'm not too sure, was literally saying his name repeatedly, and it starts just going danger, 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 danger. And it is terrifying. Whether or not this was a real video or was filmed for entertainment purposes, I'm not too sure. But the idea of this happening is absolutely terrifying. And I know full well his was not the only video that I'd seen. I've seen a lot of videos of where people's devices were doing and saying really uncomfortable things.
Okay, so I have something fucked about Amazon Alexas. Mine today decided out of nowhere after not being used to say, "Hello, calling Kara." It's my name. Then my phone proceeds to ring, and as it's ringing, it says no caller ID. So I was like, what in the hell? So I answer it. Hello? And my Alexa, right over there, goes, hello,
holiday season is almost done, but I'm closing out the year with something fun. Just say, open my gift.
That wasn't planned, and now I'm a little scared. But why the fuck would she call me? Also, she's not plugged in. So, that's fucked. That is so fucked.
And the worst thing is, because it is a piece of technology, there are some insanely intelligent people out there who know how to hack into certain devices, know how to manipulate technology, where they could potentially hack into your own device and maybe talk to you through it, or someone could be pranking you and doing creepy things to it, and that is terrifying. I've seen a huge range of videos of where people's devices would start lighting up as if they were listening, even though they haven't been called to be used, as we'll say. So for example, you say, hey Siri, hey Google, or my Siri's lighting up, or you yell Alexa's name or whatever. However, people's devices were lighting up without being called, and they light up like that when they are listening. So devices are listening to what you are doing, what you are saying, without actually being asked. And that makes me feel a little bit nervous. And I would completely understand it 100%, because it's happened to us. If Alex and I are having a conversation, I don't know, some of our words might sound like we are saying, hey Google or whatever, and the Google device will start talking. It will start trying to answer a question it thinks we have asked. That I can kind of understand. However, when people are sat in pure silence, doing nothing, saying nothing, playing no music, and it starts randomly talking or randomly answering a question it's not been asked, that's when it gets a little bit freaky. I know a lot of people theorize that the government is using these devices to listen in, and in all honesty, it wouldn't surprise me. The government are sort of set there to help us, to sort of, I don't know, protect us, whatever they're set to do. It wouldn't surprise me if they were using technology to listen in. It's been done for many years. However, people who literally think their own device is listening in to every single thing they do all day, every day, and it is getting sent to the government, and the government is listening to every single device that is on the planet every single second of the day, that's very far-fetched, because that's a lot of time wasted to listen into people's very mundane lives. Someone said they were terrified that their Alexa was just listening in on them having sex, and I was like, well, that's great, but what does the government want with that? I'm sure your sex life is extremely interesting, but at the end of the day, that's not really that useful to the government. I would completely understand it if they were searching for things that could be threats or whatever, then fair enough. I mean, we all have technology, we all have devices, we are all born and given birth certificates, we are all sort of tracked. It's very difficult to be 100% off the grid, so it wouldn't surprise me if the government was listening. But then again, have they really got the time to sit and listen to Bob and Margaret up the road talking about what casserole they're having for dinner? I don't think so. So going back to a few things that people have noticed their devices doing, a common thing that came up was the devices laughing, and not in a nice way. Again, these devices are supposed to be helping us, are supposed to be aiding us, supposed to be very factual, very scientific. So if I want to ask mine what the weather's like, it can very quickly in seconds find that information for me. However, they have been known to laugh and do other things that humans are supposed to be able to do, which you wouldn't think a piece of technology would be able to do. There has been a huge variety of videos of people saying that their Alexa or Google or whatever device they're using has just randomly started laughing. And it's never a funny, never a nice laugh. It's always quite sinister. There is something very, very eerie about that. It's a common occurrence in horror movies where laughing can be heard, and it's just very unusual. Why would your device need to be doing that? And if mine was to start doing that, it would be swiftly unplugged and removed from the home. But if you watch some of these back, obviously some of them can be fake. We don't know for certain, but a lot of these people who have filmed these have claimed out of nowhere it just started laughing, or it'd say something very sinister and then just laugh. So I'm going to very quickly talk about our own experiences. It's nothing highly terrifying, don't worry, because if it was, they wouldn't be in our home still. And I've kind of been made aware that these things do happen, so some of it is expected, but it is still slightly uncomfortable. Not long after we got ours and we had set them up, Alex and I were in bed. Alex was already lay in bed, like under the covers, and I was sort of sat on the end of the bed facing him. I think I was just doing my skincare or something very mundane and boring. We were talking, we were chatting away, but we didn't say anything of the sort that would have triggered our Google device to start. And I'm probably not going to include the footage. I might do, but I was getting ready for bed. I did not look attractive in the slightest, but out of nowhere, it started just chatting away as if we'd asked it to do something and set it up, and we had no idea.
Calendar or weather, turn off lights and more. To customize your bedtime routine, take a look at routine settings.
It was very bizarre. Alex were looking at each other like, what the fuck is it doing? Who is it talking to? So again, I would understand if we'd said something along the lines that could have sounded like, hey Google, but we hadn't, which is why it makes it a little bit odd. And since then, it hasn't really done anything worrying. It sort of sometimes started chatting away if Alex and I were talking, or we had the television on, or we were playing music and it thinks we are speaking to it, it would sometimes start talking. But apart from that, it's not really done anything else until a couple of days ago. So at the minute, I spend most of my time working from home, and I was editing a video. There was no TV on. One of the cats was with me and sort of following me around, and the other one was asleep in the living room. So I had my laptop with me like this, and I walked into the living room, which is where one of our devices is, and I heard it talking. Instantly, when I hear voices in my house, I'm going to be terrified, but I recognised it was the Google Home, so walked in, and weirdly enough, it was talking quite quietly. I do know that some of these devices do whisper, like you whisper to them, they can whisper back or whatever, but it wasn't whispering, it was just talking very quietly, as if one of us had turned the volume right down on it, which we don't usually do. However, I just remember hearing it say, I'm really trying to help you. Then it just went silent as I was walking into the room. And I just looked at it and thought, who are you trying to help? Who is talking to you? We live in the middle of nowhere. It's very quiet here. Wouldn't have picked up any form of other noise, anyone else talking, because there is nothing like that going on around here. I had no TV on, there was nothing playing. I wasn't talking, the cats weren't making any noise, and that freaked me out quite a lot. So clearly it was mid-conversation or mid-talking, but it definitely said, I'm really trying to help you. I 100% heard it say that, and then it just went quiet. Take from that what you want, but I can make no sense of that one, I'm afraid. So I'm going to be reading out some of your experiences. I did ask on a few of my social medias if you guys have had any experiences, and I have found some other people's experiences, and we're going to do a bit of reading and reacting to them. So the first one says, I was sitting on my phone in silence and just scrolling through Instagram, and out of nowhere she goes, sorry, I don't know the answer to that question. She scared me. I was home alone and I was not expecting anyone to talk. My parents were watching Oh, this is a different one, sorry. My parents were watching a movie and she started saying weird stuff. Definitely a robot not to be trusted. I completely agree, but that is so scary. That's the things that really worry me, is obviously if you've got a TV on, you've got other forms of noise that the device can mix up, can think that you're talking to them. But when you are literally sat in silence, who the hell are these devices listening to? I want to know. And most of the time you can link the device up to your phone. So it would make sense if they were tapped in by a neighbour or something. But when they're not, it just scares me. So next one. These are all quite short, but it says, me and my missus were talking about a murder programme. And it was a murder programme we were watching. Alexa then pops up saying, I've never killed anyone. I don't know anything. Creepy little bitch. What the hell? That is terrifying. So I'm guessing they've not said anything along the lines of asking Alexa for help, but at least she's on topic. At least she's keeping up with the convo. But that's the sort of time it worries me, when it's listening when it shouldn't be. That's intense. I've never killed anyone. I don't know anything. Oh, that's exactly what someone who was guilty and was being questioned by the police would say. This one says, mine's not doing anything too crazy other than the odd time in day or night she'll randomly say stuff like, sorry, I didn't understand that last question. Or she'll randomly just start talking if you're having a conversation. Yeah, so that seems to be the very popular thing that happens. It is very bizarre. If they are so intelligent, they should be able to differentiate between when we're talking to each other or when we're actually saying, hey Google or Alexa or whatever, but can kind of understand why they mix that up, but it just freaks me the fuck out. This one I found on Reddit, it just says, a Google Home scary experience. This is the user 62973. It just says, while I was home, my Google Home today, the device, I'm either being more dyslexic than usual or that doesn't really make sense, device started saying stuff in a demonic little girl's voice. Oh. The voice started saying some really scary stuff that I completely forgot, but I remember it saying to hide and that I was going to die. It kept singing in a creepy song, is this normal? I wouldn't say it was normal, but the top comment just says, It's normal. That sort of stuff should not be normal. And then this comment actually kind of stuck with me. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I'm scared of these things, but it basically says that you need to treat them with respect, which at the end of the day, it is a piece of technology. You shouldn't have to speak to it like it's a human, if that makes sense. But that kind of stuck with me, and I always thank my Google Home. Like, if it helps me, I say thank you. I say like please and thank you, and use my manners with it just in case. Yeah, a few people have said that if you don't treat them with respect, they then start doing weird stuff, which I don't know if it's true, but it's still terrifying. This one's a little bit longer. So this is user Rayfin, and this is about the Google Nest. My Google Home doesn't have permission to open the garage doors, only checks the status and close and open the door. Yeah, it's opened my door twice, and that's scary. I've had the Chamberlain MyQ connected to my Google Home since it became available. And since routines have become available, I've had a routine that closes my garage door at 10 p.m. at night, ever since my wife accidentally left the door open all night one evening. Ooh. Risky. The routine is configured run the shortcut close the garage door at 10 p.m. every night. The shortcut close the garage door is configured to use the command ask my Q to close the garage door. That's all a bit complicated. It says this works as expected on routine and via shortcut command near flawlessly. However, once about 6 months ago and then last night, my routine fires off at 10 p.m. as expected. Then I got an app notification that the garage door opened. Terrifying. I opened the door to the garage to check, and yet the garage door was open. My Q isn't supposed to be able to open your garage door. It's supposed to only be able to close it. This fluke is very, very scary. Almost to the point where I want to disable and just go back to assuming and checking on the garage door myself. That's a little bit freaky, if you ask me, especially because that is the security of your own home, where instead of a device being something that could hurt you, a real human being could enter your home and hurt you. But I don't know, I feel like as a species we do massively rely on technology, and this is what worries me. Most people couldn't survive without technology, and it is terrifying. It is also an incredible thing, don't get me wrong, but so many people are glued to their devices, and like that guy, I'm sure it is so much more convenient to have the garage door closed for you, but if you start relying on things and it malfunctions like that, that's so scary, especially if it's not supposed to be able to do that. I would not be trusting that. So the next one, this is from Lamuk on Reddit. So this says, my Google Home Mini started cussing at me in a completely different voice. It sounded as if it was someone directly speaking to me. This is scary. This is what I mean about potentially other people hacking in and tapping into your devices. So scary. So my friend was over at the house and he was just doing this thing, being silly. So he decided to go off on the Google Home Mini. And so he started cussing at it and all. And then suddenly it started replying back in a completely different voice. You kind of asked for it though. You're going to piss it off. It's going to fight back. It was a man's voice with a very human tone. And it was replying as if it was a real person with cussing and roast, just like someone would do if you roast them. So kind of like if they were there and like a real person in the room with you. That's so scary. It was not the default man's voice either. It was a very informal toned voice. I want to say it sounded like an African American male's voice. It also did not respond for a few seconds as it was doing that. Maybe it was just me being bad at voice commands, but something to consider. I know it's not an IFTTT applet. No one set one up. I don't even think anyone in the house has IFTTT downloaded. I don't know what that is, so I'm sorry. And no one in my house really plays pranks. Besides, it was a different voice, which I don't think IFTTT can do. I never managed to get it to do it again, and it's at the same time funny but also scary. 100%. That would scare the shit out of me, but then again, if you're going to fuck around with it, it's going to fuck back. I'm just going to pause this here and ask if anyone has had a scary experience. Feel free to let me know. If you're on YouTube, leave it in the comments, because even though this stuff terrifies me, I do find it very, very fascinating. So this is from Melly the Bitch, with experiences with Alexa and Google Home. I'm going to try and explain this the best I can. In our bedroom, my husband and I have both an Alexa and a Google Home. We've had them for a while now, and while they have always occasionally gone off randomly, it's different now. Oh, I just want to jump in. Apparently, if you have one of each device, they sometimes talk to each other, or if you ask what they think about the other, they start lighting up and talking to each other. Very terrifying, but anyway. Before it was always for an easily explained reason, so like hearing what sounds like their trigger word was on the telly. For the last couple of weeks, they've both started going off even when the room is silent. For example, today I was home alone with the TV off, and they both went off at least 5 times. What the fuck? Before, when it would randomly go off, it would usually only be one. Now the Alexa goes off, and a few seconds later, the Google Home goes off too. Oh, that's creepy. My thought is maybe they can hear something I can't. I'm thinking something along the lines of EVP. Our home is 100 years old and we've had many other odd experiences here as well. Just wondering if this makes sense to anyone and if anyone else has had similar things happen. That's so weird. And the comments are, my daughter and my nephew came running down the stairs with the unplugged Google Home one day. I asked them what was going on and they said they were laughing about something, and the Google Home spontaneously says, I'm glad you're having fun. They noped it right out the room. That's probably a good idea. If this is what I mean when they react when they haven't been activated, it's just so creepy. I'm going to keep reading these because they are fascinating. And I've not read these. So another comment says, similar things have happened to me in my house. We have an Alexa in almost every room. I think you're brave. They're very handy, but I think you are brave. That's something I do want to say. They are very handy. And I've noticed I've become quite lazy with them. So if I'm cooking or if I'm, doing something where I don't have the time to just quickly Google it on my phone, I can literally just shout at it like, what's the measurement for this or whatever. So they are really handy, don't get me wrong. So this is another comment. Similar things have happened to me in my house. We have an Alexa in almost every room. The biggest one would be that once me and my mum were talking in the kitchen, she was scrolling through Facebook at the table and I was on the other side of the kitchen making us tea. Neither of us said anything close to the wake up word and it just started laughing. See? No. Oh, it's so scary. And someone replied to their comment saying, oh God, that must have been scary. One time in the middle of the night, our Alexa in the living room started listing cemeteries in Denver. What the fuck? The absolute weirdest thing happened while we were watching the chilling adventures of Sabrina. They started to chant Hail Satan over and over when our Alexa, without making the noise it makes after hearing the trigger word, suddenly says, of course, in a really, really cheery but creepy way. Oh, and this was at 3:30 a.m. Girl, go to bed. That's so creepy though. And then similar to the one above, it says it was at my sister's home and her Alexa started randomly naming funeral homes close to me. We looked at each other, got our purses and left. When it's creepy sort of things they start talking about, it just makes it even creepier. These are a few more that I found online. So this says, wife and I were arguing about something. No clue what it was, but it was getting a little bit heated. I don't know what Alexa thought she heard, but she suddenly interjected with, why don't we change the subject? It was just unexpected and relevant enough to be creepy. We both heard it, and we both still think about it years later. There was nothing in the app logs. Oh, that's creepy. If you didn't know, on the app it can log the sort of interactions you have with them. So you can sometimes look back and save information. Yet this hadn't logged anything. So clearly the device was listening to them having a conversation and it somehow thought that it could diffuse the tension, which it shouldn't be able to do. These devices are not built for this. They shouldn't be able to have that knowledge and that power and to be able to sort of overwrite what its purpose is. And I don't like it. I don't like it. So next one says, my mum and I were working on stuff quietly in a quiet house when Alexa spontaneously turned on and told us the total number of people that have died in history. Spooky. Damn right it's spooky. Again, if you wanted to know that, you'd ask that. Fair enough, but why is it randomly telling you creepy shit like this? Time to call a priest. The other night, out of the blue, Alexa started making a crazy, scary, ghostly wail, sort of like a child crying for about 4 seconds. What the fuck? I agree. What the fuck? Those were interesting. Just to summarise, as you probably can tell, these things creep me out a little bit. Will I continue to keep one in my home? Of course I will. Until it does something so scary, I will probably continue to use it because, like I said, physically, I'd like to think it's not able to harm me. It might be able to freak me out, but apart from doing freaky shit, they're not dangerous. So I'm sorry that this one was a little bit shorter today. It was more of a minisode. It was just something I felt like I had to talk about, felt like I needed to talk about because it is on my mind. And even though it freaks me out, I do find it very fascinating. Let me know your thoughts, please. I really want to hear what you guys think about this sort of stuff. Do you own a device? Has your device done anything creepy? What do you think about robots? All of that jazz, let me know. So thank you so much for joining me this week. If you are on YouTube, please give it a massive thumbs up, leave me a comment down below and subscribe. I would be so grateful if you could. However, if you are just listening on some form of streaming service, do whatever you can to help spread the word. Rate, review, share, all of the above. But I'm going to leave it here for now. We will probably get into something a little bit darker again next week, but I do find it dark. It scares me. Thank you so much for joining me. I will catch you in my next one. Bye!